Hey everyone. Simon, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Ben.
How's your week been and how are things?
We've been incredibly busy. We're gearing up for Zebec. A lot of great announcements and product updates in the pipeline, which we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we're extremely excited today to be finally speaking with Kotapay. Obviously,
Yes.
Kotapay has been a longtime partner of Zebec, as well as our payroll subsidiary, PayBridge. They were really a pioneer in the payroll processing business in the US. Stablecoin payroll is a concept that's existed for years with limited traction, to be honest, due to the lack of clear regulation around how banks and corporations can issue and transact with stablecoins. This, of course, all changed earlier this year with the passing of the Genius Act in the US, which effectively makes stablecoins, as you said, Ben, legal tender and issuable by certain US banks that back such tokens one-to-one with reserves. This is a huge leap forward for the crypto industry and has opened the floodgates for banks to enter the stablecoin arena and partner with infrastructure providers like Zebec.
Perfect. Okay. In the meantime, what I would ask everyone here to do, if you can hit the little speech bubble in the bottom right-hand corner of your phone and just head down to the bottom there and give this a like and a repost, maybe drop us a comment and say hello. That would be great.
So, Jim, I wondered if you could briefly introduce yourself and also your role at Kotapay.
Absolutely. My name is Jim Haug. I am the managing director of Kotapay, which is the payments division of First International Bank and Trust. As managing director, basically my main role is looking at a strategic standpoint, how we continue to grow, how we continue to manage our customers, how we continue to innovate, and what we're looking at for the future, what we're doing now that needs to be changed and updated. And to some extent, you can say, I stay out of my staff's way to make sure they're able to do their jobs.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. And for those who are unfamiliar, what is Kotapay and how does it operate within the payments ecosystem?
Yeah, so Kotapay, again, it's the payments division of First International Bank and Trust. And in essence, what that means is we move money for payroll service bureaus that are working with a variety of companies around the country. So we become the gateway for them. We allow them to connect to the network that allows a transaction to go from point A to point B and ultimately maybe to point C. So we're here to help facilitate the movement of those funds to pretty much do that whole entire direct deposit or payroll environment from end to end. And that includes not just doing the direct deposit for the employee, but it's going to help out those companies with their tax liabilities. They need to get those paid to jurisdictions. So we're out there we're helping to pull those funds, hold them, and push them to the right location. We're going to help them, the payroll processor, to bill their clients, right? They can send that file to us. They maybe need to do a vendor payment. Maybe they need to do some kind of garnishment. It could be a health reimbursement, right? So there's just a variety of electronic payments that go through the whole process that are open to companies that are offering payroll services. And we're here to help them facilitate those.
How has Kotapay supported PayBridge historically, and particularly when it comes to like compliance and payments processing?
We've been supporting PayBridge for north of 10 years. And basically what we're doing here is we're helping to facilitate that transaction, make it possible for them to connect with us in a secured environment, number one. They need to be able to transmit that information securely. So we offer them that service, right? And then we take the file that they give us, and we're doing a number of things with those files that not only stay within compliance, that we have our own internal compliance, but also regulatory compliance needs as well. That's our responsibility to take care of that for them. What maybe is a little different today in the file that they sent us with those transactions versus what they sent previously. The very first things we're going to do is we're going to look, is there any potential fraud? And if there is, we're going to pull that out, and now a human's going to take a look at it. We're going to say, okay, enough of the machine that gave us the alert, because human can't look at 10,000 transactions, right? So the machine scrubbed it. Now the human's going to look at it, and we're going to call Tony and say, hey, Tony, you want to communicate with your client? We saw something that looks a little bit off on this particular batch for this particular client for this dollar amount and so forth. And we're going to ask him to communicate with his client, maybe all the way down to the employee, and then come back to us and say, yeah, there's a problem with that. Let's not release that. Or, no, it's good. It's legitimate. Let's get that pushed out. So that's one of the first things we do. So once we get through that process with them, we load that information to our system. It pretty much sits here, and now it's going through the other parameters that we have established. What are the limits that we're allowing Tony and his clients to help protect Tony? what is the processing windows we have for them as well, because we are going to schedule when transactions get debited and then when we're going to credit out. And that's based on how we work with Tony. And we're looking at all our processors kind of the same, right? We're looking from a risk environment. So it works from the top down. If we look at you as being a little higher risk, we're going to have a lot more restrictions on you. We're going to maybe require that it's a very long window. We're going to require that there has to be a wire that's submitted to us to fund these transactions. But we work with our customers to get them to help, obviously, us work and collect those funds in as short a time as period so we can continue to service that particular customer for them. And on the back end of all of that, all the different security protocols that we have to put in place. So we're very heavily regulated. And part of what gets regulated, part of what gets audited is what are those security protocols we have? You know, what's that info security systems we have? How's our IT? How's our network? How strong is everything? How does it actually formed and how does it actually work to help protect everything?
What strengths has the Kotapay FIBT relationship brought to the Zebec PayBridge's payment infrastructure? And I think it would be really, really good to kind of cover that, because that then gives a really clear signal of why it was important for Zebec to pursue that partnership.
Many things to touch on here, but Kotapay and FIBT have been instrumental to us being able to consistently and compliantly deliver payroll payments to employees in all 50 states, never being late once or missing a single payroll in all of these years. And with Kotapay operating as a division of a federally regulated bank and operating in the industry for, of course, over 100 years, Zebec and PayBridge have teamed up with true veterans in the industry, and we bring kind of the next generation of payment technology to U.S. employers and consumers alongside industry experience and expertise. Kotapay has been also a major driver of our compliance efforts at Zebec, of course, with them being SOC 2 compliant many years before we were, which ultimately drove our own drive to get the SOC 2 compliance. And it's helped us build our operational security and trust with customers, which is, of course, the number one factor.
Absolutely. And I think that's hugely important. One of the other pieces I was going to ask you, maybe how you see emerging payment technologies like stablecoins fitting alongside like existing payroll infrastructure. Is that something that you feel like you could touch on now?
The beauty of what we've built at Zebec is that it can integrate directly with any bank in the ACH system through our connection to Kotapay. So our goal is to drive mass adoption, not by replacing the current system, but by plugging our rails into the Federal Reserve managed systems in the US, such as FedWire and FedNow, which already process trillions in daily transaction volume. And when you look at stablecoin technology, the benefit of adding it into existing payroll infrastructure really comes down to the improvements you see in speed, cost, and accessibility. We have use cases of employers that are on-ramping parts of their payroll flow and allowing their employees to select partial stablecoin payment. And for us, this is an incredibly important KPI that we are tracking to see those opt-in rates and volumes increase with time. Because for us, that's a statement that our value proposition of stablecoin payroll is increasingly more compelling than receiving your traditional payroll via fiat every 2 weeks. We're in talks with some of the largest payroll companies in the US for this sort of integration into their HCM platforms and payment flows. And the first of these should be announcing sometime next month, which we're super excited about. I can't get into too much detail about this right now.
From a payments processor perspective, as part of FIBT, like what trends are you seeing in payroll, payments technology, and the adoption of those things at the moment?
The whole payroll process has changed a little bit in the last 5 years, right? Actually, some relatively dramatic shifts. You could start out with early wage access or earned wage access, right? So that's going to be capturing some of those dollars, potentially all of those dollars in a shorter time frame earlier. So those might be transactions that aren't necessarily coming through Kotapay. There's obviously a need for that service. There's a lot of people that take advantage of getting their money earlier than they used to in the past. We have seen some companies starting to adopt a shorter pay cycle. So those might be transactions that aren't necessarily coming through Kotapay, right? There's obviously a need for that service. There's a lot of people that take advantage of getting their money earlier than they used to in the past. We have seen some companies starting to adopt a shorter pay cycle because a number of their employees that they see, it might only cost them $1 to get paid immediately, but they're still looking at it saying, we could maybe help out our customers. Why don't we do this a little more frequently? So we have seen some speed up of their normal payroll windows. In addition to that, you're now seeing the world of real-time payments. So the real-time payments piece, it's a very early technology. There's a lot of people that just don't understand it or aren't even aware that you can pretty much fund a payroll or fund an employee in a couple seconds, right? So that's the next piece that's kind of coming into play. Now, part of what we're pretty pleased with when it comes to a real-time payment environment is obviously let's fund that transaction right away. That protects a company like PayBridge. Their best protection is a wire or a very long window or move to a real-time payment through the clearinghouse or through FedNow. There's always risk. Just because something worked today doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. So you think you know your customers, but it also still gives you a greater level of security, allows you maybe to sleep a little better at night. The more of those dollars you can get funded securely as early as possible. So we're seeing that part of it is starting to grow. It's going to take some more time before it becomes a little bit more of the norm, but that's going to be the next bigger impact when it comes to payroll.
What compliance, operational factors are you positioning yourself in to be able to handle large scale payroll processing, shorter windows, and those kind of things?
So we have people here from about 6 a.m. Central to 10 p.m. Central, and we process on Sunday. So we already have pretty extensive long operating hours where we're able to take a file and we're able to get it out right away. When you throw in the change or bringing in something like a real-time payment, you have to be ready to do that at midnight, in essence. If you want to pay an employee on Christmas Day, we have to build a system that is smart enough to see a real-time came in and there's a request, a file came in also to pay that employee or somebody else that same day. There is an infrastructure, there's a lot of back-end moving parts, and there's a lot of different departments that come into play, not just a Kotapay, in order for this to work successfully.
How important is it for financial institutions to partner with payroll processors and fintech companies that are really starting to present new innovative solutions to the industry itself?
When it comes to real-time payments, every financial institution is going to have to participate, whether it's directly themselves or a correspondent that is assisting them with that. And unfortunately, there's a lot of small banks that just don't have the resources to do it themselves, so they're going to have to partner with somebody. If you're a financial institution, one of the things you're looking at is how can I grow my deposits? How can I expand on my stickiness with some customers? Getting into that type of solution is very important for them. Obviously, this world moves on money, right? No matter any way you look at it. And there's inherent risk whenever you're moving money. You just think about the regulatory environment of knowing who your customer is, knowing where these funds have come from. You have to be able to answer those questions. So you have to have the proper systems and the correct people in place in order to be able to manage that effectively.
The evolution of this sector is a very exciting and interesting one, and it's certainly going to help a lot of people around the world, and particularly in America, in terms of their day-to-day living and their access to their funds.
I think it's great that Zebec isn't just trying to bank the unbanked, but it's actually looking at their circumstances and truly tailored to their needs as an employee.
So I guess I want to thank you for coming up and joining me and talking about it.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for the time as well. It was great to have this conversation. Probably about the last piece that I want to bring up, and we talked about fast. That is not going to change. We are working ourselves on what can we do to pay that employee faster without it being an early wage access. So that's the next piece that we're developing ourselves that we're going to be bringing out to the market because it's free and it's good secured funds as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ben, for hosting.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time and have a great day.